Welcome to my world. Things are about to get wild. You're gonna love this story. Make sure to subscribe. Don't miss out.
Chapter 1. The Price of Blood. My father's hands were shaking. I'd never seen them shake before. Not even when he'd held a gun to a man's head. Not even when he'd come home bleeding from a knife fight. Those hands had always been steady, instruments of his will. Now, they trembled like a leaf in a hurricane as he signed the document. The ink from the Mont Blanc pen bled across the parchment, a stark black scar on the pristine white paper. The office smelled of expensive whiskey and old leather, but underneath it all was the cloying scent of fear. His fear. He had lost. Not just a deal, not just some territory, but everything. The entire family fortune, the businesses, the respect, the name. He had been playing a game far above his weight class, and he had been crushed by the titan sitting across from him. Lorenzo Romano. He didn't look like the boogeyman of the city's underworld. He looked like a god who had deigned to visit the mortal realm, a dark-haired Adonis in a perfectly tailored charcoal suit. He sat in my father's own leather armchair as if it were a throne, his posture relaxed, one ankle crossed over the opposite knee. A crystal tumbler of amber liquid glinted in his hand. He hadn't said a word since we'd walked in. He didn't need to. His presence alone was a suffocating weight, a silent command. The document was signed. The deal was done. My father, the man who had raised me with a strict code of loyalty and power, was now a broken man. All because he'd tried to outmaneuver Romano. There, my father whispered, his voice a ragged ghost of its usual commanding bark. He pushed the contract across the mahogany desk, his hand still trembling. It's done. Everything. It's yours. Lorenzo didn't even look at the contract. His eyes, a stunning unnatural shade of silver, were fixed on me. They were intelligent, cold, and held a terrifying, possessive glint that made my skin prickle. I'd been standing in the corner of the room, a silent spectator to my family's downfall. I was the son, the heir, and now apparently a part of the payment. The contract says everything. Lorenzo's voice was a low, silken baritone that seemed to resonate in the very air. It was beautiful and deadly, like the man himself. He finally set his glass down, the clink of crystal against wood loud in the heavy silence. But I don't see my full due. My father's face, already pale, went a shade whiter. The accounts, the properties, they're all listed there. The assets in your name will be transferred immediately. It's everything I own. Lorenzo rose from the chair. He was tall, at least 6'4", and he moved with a predatory grace that was utterly disarming. He stalked around the desk, his steps soundless on the thick Persian rug. He stopped in front of me, close enough that I could smell his cologne, something dark, woody, and expensive. A shiver, one I couldn't control, ran down my spine. His gaze raked over me, from my messy brown hair to my scuffed shoes. He looked at me like I was a fine painting he was considering buying, or perhaps a problem he was figuring out how to solve. My heart hammered against my ribs, a frantic bird in a cage. You said everything, Arthur, Lorenzo murmured, his attention still on me. But I see a possession you failed to mention. My father's face contorted with confusion, then dawning horror. No, Lorenzo, please. He's my son. He's just a boy. He has nothing to do with this. He's just a student. He doesn't know anything about the business. It was true. I was just a student. I'd been deliberately sheltered from the more unsavory aspects of my father's life, the violent, bloody machinery that kept our family wealthy. I was studying art history, a useless degree in the world of syndicates and blood oaths, and that was how I liked it. I had been the good son, the one who would be kept clean. All the more valuable, Lorenzo countered, a faint, cruel smile touching his lips. He lifted his hand, and I flinched. I expected a blow, a strike across the face. Instead, he gently brushed a stray lock of hair from my forehead, his touch surprisingly soft, yet it felt like a brand. Innocence is a rare commodity in my world. He's the only thing of value you have left. No, take the money, my father pleaded, his dignity completely evaporated. Take everything. Just leave him out of it. I'll give you more. I'll find a way to get more. You have nothing else to give, Lorenzo stated, his voice final. He turned his back on my father and looked at me. His silver eyes seemed to bore into my soul. Noah Archer, you are the cost of your father's foolishness. You are coming with me. It wasn't a request. It was a decree. Where? Where are you taking me? I finally managed to choke out, my voice shaking. I was terrified, my knees threatening to buckle. I'd heard the stories. The Romanos didn't just defeat their enemies, they annihilated them. People who crossed them disappeared. Their bodies were found in shallow graves, or they were never found at all. I had just become property, and property had a way of being disposed of when it was no longer useful. Somewhere safe, he replied, the smirk on his face making the words sound like a threat. He snapped his fingers, and two men who looked like they were carved from granite stepped out of the shadows. They took a hold of my arms, their grips like iron vices. I didn't struggle. What was the point? My father, the man who was supposed to protect me, watched with tears streaming down his face as I was led out of the room. He didn't say a word. He just watched, a broken shell of a man, as his son was taken to pay for his sins. I was pushed into the back of a sleek, black Mercedes Maybach. The interior was plush leather and polished wood, smelling of the same expensive cologne Lorenzo wore. The windows were tinted so darkly it was almost impossible to see out. The driver was a hulking man in a black suit, his eyes hidden behind dark glasses. The engine hummed to life, and we pulled away. Lorenzo didn't get in with me. He remained behind with my father. I was alone with the silent driver, my future a terrifying blank void. I tried to memorize the turns, the streets, anything that might help me figure out where I was being taken. After an hour of weaving through the city and into the countryside, I gave up. We passed through a massive iron gate, intricately designed with Roman wolves, and drove up a long, winding driveway lined with ancient oaks. Then the estate loomed before me, a sprawling neoclassical mansion that was more like a fortress. It was all white stone, soaring columns, and dark, mullioned windows that stared out at the manicured grounds like unblinking eyes. It was beautiful and terrifying. The car stopped and my door was opened. The air was clean and crisp, smelling of pine and damp earth. I was led inside. The interior was even more opulent than the outside, a museum of art and antiquities. Marble floors, a sweeping staircase, chandeliers that looked like they were made of pure crystal. It was the home of someone with more money than God. I was expecting a dungeon, a cold, damp cellar, a room with chains on the walls. Instead, I was taken up a grand staircase and down a hall to a door that was open for me. "Your room, sir," the granite man grunted. That was all he said before shutting the door behind me. I stood there, bewildered. The room was enormous, decorated in soft blues and creams. A massive four-poster bed with silk sheets dominated the center. There was a fireplace, a sitting area, and a private balcony that overlooked the estate's gardens. A door led to what I assumed was an ensuite bathroom. It was a hotel suite, not a prison cell. The smell hit me then. It was barely detectable, but it was there. I took a deep breath, trying to parse it. It was faintly floral, like jasmine, with an underlying scent of something wild, something clean and natural. It wasn't a perfume. It was a scent woven into the very fabric of the room, a scent that made me feel strangely safe. It was a scent of calm in the middle of my storm of fear. I sank onto the plush bed, my head in my hands. What kind of sick game was this? Why was I in a palace instead of a dungeon? I'd expected torture. I'd steeled myself for pain and humiliation. But this was a different kind of terror. It was the terror of the unknown. I didn't know what he wanted with me, and that was infinitely worse than knowing. A sound at the door made me jump. It swung open and Lorenzo walked in. He had removed his jacket. The sleeves of his crisp white shirt rolled up to his elbows, revealing sinewy forearms. He looked more relaxed now, more powerful in his casualness. He carried 2 glasses of wine. He didn't say a word. He just walked over to the sitting area, set the glasses down on the marble coffee table, and gestured for me to sit. My legs were like jelly. I managed to stumble over to the chair opposite him and collapsed into it. He handed me a glass. I just stared at it. "It's not poisoned," he said, an amused glint in his silver eyes. "If I wanted you dead, I wouldn't have wasted the vintage. It's a '86 Chateau Margaux. It would be a crime to waste it." His calmness was unnerving. I took the glass, my hand shaking, and took a tentative sip. It was rich and smooth, and despite everything, I felt a little of the tension in my shoulders ease. "Why am I here?" I finally asked, my voice barely more than a whisper. "Why didn't you just kill me? Isn't that what you do?" He leaned forward, his elbows on his knees, his silver eyes pinning me in place. For a moment, I saw a flicker of something in their depths, something that wasn't cold or businesslike. It was hunger. "Because," he said, his voice dropping to a low, intimate murmur that sent a shiver through me, "you are far more valuable to me alive." He breathed in deeply, his nostrils flaring. "The moment you walked into that room, the moment you entered my territory, your scent, Noah, it drove my wolf insane." My breath hitched. His wolf. The word echoed in the opulent silence of the room, confirming the whispered rumors I'd always dismissed as fanciful myths. The Romanos weren't just powerful, they were different. They were something more. I was in a room with a predator, and for reasons I couldn't fathom, I was the object of his obsession. Chapter 2. The Gilded Cage. I barely slept that night. The bed was ridiculously comfortable, a cloud of goose down and Egyptian cotton, but my mind was a hurricane. Lorenzo's words echoed in my head, a strange mantra that held no meaning. His wolf. I forced myself to think of it as a metaphor, a twisted way of saying his primal instincts, because the alternative, that he was something supernatural, was too terrifying to contemplate. The next few days were a strange, surreal existence. I was a prisoner, but I was a prisoner in a 5-star resort. I was forbidden from leaving the estate, but I was allowed to roam its vast halls, its library, its indoor pool, its private cinema. A chef prepared gourmet meals for me. A personal shopper delivered an entirely new wardrobe. It was disorienting. The people who worked for Lorenzo, the silent, stoic men in suits and the efficient, mouse-quiet maids, treated me with an eerie deference. I was afraid. I was waiting for the other shoe to drop, for the real torture to begin. But it never did. The worst punishment was the isolation. I had no phone, no internet, no way to contact the outside world. I was completely cut off. On the third morning, I ventured to the dining room for breakfast. I'd been taking my meals in my room, too nervous to face anyone. But the silence was starting to get to me. The dining room was bathed in morning light, the long table set for one. A plate of fresh fruit and pastries sat at my usual spot. "Good morning, Noah." I jumped at the voice, my heart slamming against my ribs. Lorenzo was standing in the doorway. He was dressed in a simple black t-shirt and charcoal slacks, looking less like a mafia kingpin and more like a devastatingly handsome model. It was the first time I'd seen him since that first night. "I hope you slept well," he said, his voice smooth and unreadable. He walked to the table but didn't sit. He just stood there, watching me. "I'm a prisoner." I blurted out, the frustration finally boiling over. "I'm your prisoner, and you're asking me if I slept well? I'm in a gilded cage, Lorenzo. Stop pretending this is a vacation." A slow smile spread across his face, a dangerous, predatory thing. It didn't reach his eyes. A gilded cage. An apt description. But I assure you, the bars of this particular cage are very real. Try to leave, and you'll find out exactly how real. "Why?" I asked, my voice breaking. "What do you want from me?" He walked closer, and I instinctively leaned back. He stopped at the head of the table next to my chair. He leaned down, his face inches from mine. I could see the flecks of gold in his silver eyes, could smell that intoxicating cologne. "I told you," he murmured. "Your scent. I was trying to manage it. Distance was supposed to be the solution. I'd locked you away in this house, and I thought that would be enough." He took a deep, deliberate breath, his eyelids fluttering slightly. "But I can smell you from across the house. It's even stronger now that I'm in the same room." His hand came up, and he brushed his knuckles against my cheek. My breath caught in my throat. His touch was electric, sending a jolt of heat through me that was completely at odds with the fear in my heart. "You're driving me crazy, Noah," he breathed. "My wolf is clawing at the inside of my skin. It wants me to claim you, to bite you, to mark you as mine." He let out a low, frustrated growl. It's a constant, maddening ache. I sat frozen, unable to move, unable to speak. He straightened up, and the moment was broken. He looked away, his jaw clenched. "You're safe here," he stated, his voice returning to its usual controlled tone. "You are to be treated with the utmost respect. No one will touch you. No one will harm you. That is my command." "Am I a hostage?" I managed to ask. "Are you going to use me to get something from my father?" "He has nothing left." He laughed, a dark, humorless sound. "Your father is nothing. You, Noah, are the prize." He may not have realized what he was giving me, but I do. He looked at me again, his gaze piercing. He handed me a treasure, and he didn't even know it. With that, he turned and strode out of the room, leaving me alone with my racing heart and the unsettling feeling that I was something far more valuable than I could possibly imagine. I wasn't a pawn in a mafia war. I was a possession coveted by a monster. Days turned into a week. I fell into a routine. I'd wake up, eat, explore the house, and then retreat to my room. I found the library, a magnificent room with soaring shelves filled with ancient books. I'd spend hours in there, reading anything I could get my hands on, trying to escape the gilded prison. Then something changed. A new scent began to weave its way through the house. It was faint at first, a blend of expensive perfume and anxiety. Then I started seeing her, a woman with a razor-sharp bob and a snarl on her perfectly made-up face. She would follow Lorenzo around, her eyes shooting daggers at me whenever she caught me in the halls. Her name was Rosalina, and she was furious. I was in the garden, trying to sketch a flower, when she cornered me. She was a tall, statuesque woman with a model's figure and a predator's hunger in her eyes. "You," she hissed, stalking towards me. "The little pet, the stray Lorenzo brought home." I stepped back, unnerved by the venom in her voice. "I'm sorry, do I know you?" "You don't need to know me to understand that you are an intruder," she spat. "I was his. I was to be his mate. He was supposed to claim me. He would have, soon. And then you came with your," she took a sharp sniff, "your ridiculous scent. And now he won't even look at me." A cold dread pooled in my stomach. This was the other shoe dropping. She had been in line for a position of immense power, and I had inadvertently stolen it from her. "I don't want any of this," I said, trying to placate her. "I didn't ask for this. I was forced here." She laughed, a cruel, brittle sound. "Oh, I'm sure you didn't. A little nobody from a family that just lost everything. You have nothing to offer him but your scent. It's a trick. It's a chemical attraction, nothing more. He'll get bored, and when he does, you'll be nothing. But I will be here. I'm a Romano by name, even if it's just through marriage. I have power. I have a family. You have nothing." "He calls it a curse," I whispered, the words slipping out before I could stop them. "He said it's a curse that drives his wolf insane." The name stung Rosalina. Her eyes narrowed. "He told you that," she sneered. "He told you about the Romano curse?" She stepped even closer, her breath hot on my face. "Then you know he is doomed. All the Romano Alphas die young. Their wolves eat them from the inside out. It's a madness that consumes them. It's what's driving him to want you so badly. He's a desperate dying man, and you are just a pretty distraction." Her words were like shards of glass, cutting deep. It was the first time I'd heard it so plainly. Lorenzo was dying. His power was a veneer over a crumbling foundation. It explained the intensity, the desperation in his eyes. I thought of him standing in the doorway, his jaw clenched, talking about his wolf clawing at his skin. I thought of the hidden pain in his silver eyes. He wasn't just a monster. He was a dying man. From that moment on, I saw him differently. When he walked into the room for dinner, I didn't just see the ruthless mafia kingpin. I saw a lonely man caught in a trap. I saw the weight of a curse that was slowly killing him. And for reasons I didn't understand, I felt a pang of pity for him. That night, as I was heading to my room, I found him on the balcony of the main hall, staring out at the moonlit gardens. He looked utterly alone, a solitary figure against the vastness of the night. "Lorenzo?" I said, my voice soft. He turned, and for a moment the mask of ice slipped. He looked tired, haunted. "You shouldn't be here, Noah." "I know," I whispered, "but you shouldn't be out here alone." The air between us was thick with tension. The sound of an explosion shattered the silence of the night. A massive fireball erupted over the city skyline, in the distance, a plume of orange and black against the dark sky. He was at my side in an instant, his hand on my arm, his body a shield between me and the window. His eyes, which had been filled with a weary sadness just a moment before, were now blazing with a cold, furious fire. The Mafia King was back. "It has begun," he growled, his voice low and dangerous. The war was no longer a rumor. It was at our doorstep, and I was in the center of the storm. Chapter 3. The Devil's Playground. The city burned that night. The explosion we'd seen was just the beginning. From our vantage point on the hill, we could see the orange glow of fires spreading across the urban sprawl, a beautiful and horrifying vision of chaos. The distant wail of sirens was a constant, mournful hum in the air. Lorenzo's phone buzzed incessantly in his pocket. He ignored it, his gaze fixed on the city below. The facade of the calm, collected Billionaire had been stripped away entirely, revealing the cold, calculating war general underneath. His hand on my arm was like iron, his grip possessive and protective. "What's happening?" I asked, my voice trembling. "The gallows," he said, his voice flat and emotionless. "They're making a move. They've always been the Romanos' enemies. They want to control the docks, the casinos, the trade routes. They've been biding their time, and it seems our moment of perceived weakness was the opportunity they needed." "Perceived weakness?" I echoed, a flicker of understanding dawning on me. "Because of my father? Because you were distracted by me?" He finally tore his gaze from the city and looked down at me. His silver eyes were dark, unreadable. "You are not a weakness, Noah. You are the reason I will win this war." He led me away from the balcony and back into the mansion. It was no longer a quiet, peaceful home. It had transformed into a fortress on high alert. Men in black suits, armed to the teeth, moved through the halls with urgent purpose. Their footsteps echoed on the marble floors, a grim drumbeat of impending violence. "You will be safe here," Lorenzo stated, his tone brooking no argument. He took me to a part of the house I hadn't seen before, descending a hidden staircase behind a bookshelf in the library. It led to a massive, state-of-the-art bunker. The room was a strategic command center. Screens lined the walls, showing live feeds from security cameras around the estate and the city. Maps were pinned to a large central table marked with red and blue pins. It was like walking into a movie set of a war room. I was pushed into a chair in the corner. "Stay here. Don't touch anything. Don't leave this room for any reason. I'll be back." He left me there, surrounded by the quiet hum of electronics and the constant, terrifying updates from his men. The hours that followed were an eternity. I listened to the crackle of radios, the clipped, urgent reports of skirmishes in the city. I heard names I didn't recognize, code words, and the word casualties was repeated far too many times. Then I heard Lorenzo's voice on the radio. He was in the thick of it. He spoke of logistics and strategy, his voice never wavering, even as the sounds of gunfire echoed faintly through the speakers. He was calm. He was in control. I tried to stay awake, to listen for any news, any clue that he was okay. But exhaustion eventually won. I curled up in an expensive leather chair, my head resting on my arm, and fell asleep. I woke to the feeling of being lifted. Strong arms were around me, cradling me against a warm chest. I smelled his cologne. I smelled something else, too, the metallic tang of blood. "Lorenzo!" I mumbled, my eyes fluttering open. "Shoo!" he murmured, carrying me up the stairs. "It's over for now. Go back to sleep." He didn't take me to my room. He took me to his. His bedroom was even more impressive than mine, a masculine haven of dark wood and rich fabrics. The bed was enormous, a mountain of pillows and a deep charcoal duvet. He laid me down gently, tucking the covers around me. "You're hurt," I said, noticing a dark, spreading stain on his white shirt. "It's not mine," he said, his gaze on me. "Rest, Noah. You're safe." But I didn't rest. I watched him. I saw the fatigue in his eyes, the darkness under them. I saw him as he really was, a man bearing the crushing weight of an empire and a curse. He was a monster, yes, but he was a magnificent, tragic one. He was about to leave the room when I spoke. "The gallows. Is it over?" He paused at the door, not turning around. For now, it was a probing attack. A test. They wanted to see if our defenses had been compromised. I made sure they saw the answer. We lost some men. They lost a lot more. It is far from over. "Why?" I asked, my voice trembling with a fear that was no longer for myself. "Why do you do this? Why do you live like this?" He finally turned to face me. The hard lines of his face softened, just a fraction. "Because I was born into it," he said, his voice quiet. "Because if I don't lead, someone else will. Someone worse. They don't build empires, Noah. They only destroy them. They don't protect. They pillage. It's a choice I didn't get to make, but it's one I have to live with." He walked back to the bed and sat on the edge. He looked down at me, his silver eyes filled with a vulnerability I'd never seen before. "This curse you know about," he started. I nodded, my throat tight. "Rosalina told me." A flicker of anger crossed his face. She had no right. But it's true. Every Romano Alpha in the last 5 generations has been afflicted. It's a madness, a sickness that corrodes the soul. It begins with an obsession, a feral need that cannot be satisfied. For my father, it was power. He was consumed by it. It made him paranoid, ruthless in the worst way. He started wars he couldn't win and pushed away everyone who ever cared for him. In the end, he was a lonely, raving man killed by his own wolf's rage. "And for you?" I breathed. "What is your obsession?" He looked at me, and the hunger I'd seen in his eyes that first night was back, fiercer than ever. "It's you, Noah. You are my madness." He leaned down, his face so close to mine. I could feel the heat radiating from his skin, could see the raw, unadulterated want in his eyes. It was terrifying and exhilarating. "I don't care about the money, the power, the empire," he confessed, his voice a ragged whisper. "I've built it all, and it means nothing. But you, when I'm near you, the chaos in my head quiets. The wolf stops snarling. You're the only thing that has ever given me peace. And the idea of losing you, of letting the curse consume me and leave you unprotected, is a fear that is worse than death itself. Are you going to claim me?" I asked, the question bold and terrifying. I didn't know why I asked it. It was like watching myself from outside my body, saying words I couldn't control. He let out a ragged breath. "I want to. God, you have no idea how much I want to. But to do that is to trap you. To make you part of this world, part of my curse." His hand came up to cup my cheek, his thumb stroking my jaw. "I have to destroy the gallows first. I have to secure your safety." And then he kissed my forehead, the touch impossibly gentle. "Then I will make you mine, Noah. In every way." He stood up, abruptly, the moment broken. He walked out of the room, without another word, leaving me in his bed, surrounded by his scent, trembling with a confusing mix of fear, desire, and a strange burgeoning hope. The next few days were tense. The mansion was a hive of activity. The war was still raging, though it had moved from open warfare to a more insidious, invisible battle. I could feel the tension in the air, a palpable weight that pressed down on everyone. I tried to stay out of the way. I retreated to the library, my refuge, but one afternoon, I stumbled upon something I shouldn't have. A door I'd never seen before was slightly ajar. Curiosity, that damnable trait, got the better of me. I pushed it open and found myself in a hidden office. The walls were lined with portraits, generations of Romano Alphas, all with the same silver eyes, all radiating a cold, powerful aura. But at the very end of the gallery, my gaze was drawn to a single haunting portrait. It was a beautiful woman with fiery red hair and piercing blue eyes. She looked familiar. I heard a soft footstep behind me. I spun around. Rosalina was standing in the doorway, a cold smile on her face. Ah, you found her. The first Romanova. The one who started it all. Who is she? I whispered. Her name was Elena, Rosalina said, her voice dripping with malice. She was an Alpha's mate, and she is the reason for the curse. The lore says an Alpha wronged her, and she cursed him, cursing every Alpha in his bloodline to be consumed by their own beast. She is the ghost that haunts the Romano family. Her spirit is woven into the very fabric of this house. The portrait's eyes seemed to follow me. A chill ran down my spine. Rosalina left, but her words lingered in the air, a heavy, ominous portent. I closed the door to the secret room, my mind reeling. There was more to this story than I'd known. The curse wasn't a random sickness. It was a vengeful spell. I walked back to the main hall, lost in thought. A sound from the study caught my ear. Lorenzo was on the phone, his back to the door. You must tell me, he was saying, his voice frantic. Is it her? Is the fifth generation the one to break the curse? Yes. Noah. Is he the one? He paused, listening to the response. Then his body went rigid. I could only see his back, but I saw his shoulders slump. He let out a long, shuddering breath. I understand, he said, his voice barely a whisper. Thank you. He set the phone down and stood there, his head bowed. He looked broken. I turned and fled, my heart pounding in my chest. He'd been asking about me, about the curse, and the answer he got had clearly devastated him. Something terrible had been confirmed, something that put me at the very heart of the curse. The war outside was terrifying, but the war within Lorenzo's soul was far more dangerous. And I was the battlefield. Chapter 4, Whispers in the Dark. I became a ghost in my own gilded cage. The knowledge of my own relevance to the curse gnawed at me, a festering wound of fear and confusion. Lorenzo's reaction to that phone call, the way his shoulders had slumped in defeat, haunted my waking moments and invaded my sleep. He wouldn't talk to me. He was busier than ever, disappearing for hours at a time, returning late at night with the scent of smoke and violence clinging to his clothes. The war was escalating. The Gallos weren't retreating, they were regrouping, and Lorenzo was forced to be the general his empire needed. I felt like a discarded toy. The intense, almost predatory attention he'd shown me at first had evaporated, replaced by a cold distance that was somehow more painful than his obsession had been. I was left to wander the silent halls, a prisoner in a palace that suddenly felt more like a tomb. The servants, who had once been so deferential, now looked at me with a new wariness. Their eyes flickered away when I walked by, and I could feel the weight of their whispers following me like a shadow. I was an outsider, an intruder, a strange variable in their carefully ordered world. Only Rosalina seemed to delight in my isolation. I'd see her on the arm of some high-ranking member of the Romano syndicate, her eyes glittering with triumph, a smug smile playing on her lips. He's lost interest in the little stray. Her smug smile seemed to say, my place was never in jeopardy. I knew it wasn't true. I'd seen the torment in Lorenzo's eyes. I knew his distance was a cage he'd built for himself, a desperate attempt to protect me from something, but I didn't know what. And that was the most frustrating part. One evening, unable to bear the silence any longer, I decided to go to him. I found him in his private study, a bottle of whiskey on his desk, a crystal glass half empty in his hand. He was staring at a faded photograph, his face a mask of anguish. Lorenzo, I said softly, stepping into the room. He looked up startled. The mask of control slipped for a moment, and I saw the raw pain beneath. Noah, you shouldn't be here. This isn't a place for you. I don't care, I said, my voice firmer than I felt. I need to know. I heard you on the phone. You were asking about me. About the curse. What did they tell you? He looked away, his jaw clenching. It's nothing you need to concern yourself with. Don't do that. I pleaded, stepping closer. Don't shut me out. I'm already trapped here. I'm part of this, whether I like it or not. If I'm going to be your whatever I am, then I deserve to know the truth. I deserve to know what you heard. He let out a long, weary breath. He put the photograph down and motioned for me to sit. I took a seat in the chair opposite his desk. The air between us was thick with unspoken words. The curse, Noah, he began, his voice heavy. It's not just a madness. It's a punishment. A soul-deep blight that passes from one generation to the next, growing stronger with each iteration. There is only one way to break it. He met my eyes, and I felt a jolt of ice in my veins. The curse demands a sacrifice. A powerful sacrifice. The legend says the fifth generation was never meant to exist. My great-grandfather, the one who broke the cycle and had a child despite the curse, was supposed to be the last. But he created a paradox. He forced a new, powerful life into the world, a life that, according to the old lore, is the key to breaking the spell. The key is a pure soul, a life untainted by the bloodline, who willingly binds themselves to the cursed Alpha. My mind was reeling. Me. I breathe. I'm the fifth generation. I'm the one. He nodded, his silver eyes filled with a sorrow so deep it took my breath away. The witch I consulted, she confirmed it. You are the answer, Noah. You are the sacrifice that can break the curse. He stood up and walked to the window, his back to me. If I claim you as my mate, it will sever the curse's hold on the bloodline. It will end the cycle of madness and death. But there's a price. The bond will make you as vulnerable as it makes me strong. You will be tethered to my life, to my world. It will bind your soul to mine, and what happens to me will happen to you. If the curse kills me, it will kill you too. The weight of his words settled on me. He wasn't being cold or dismissive. He was being protective. He was staying away from me because he was afraid. He was afraid of what claiming me would do to me. He was a man who had built an empire on blood and fear, and the only thing he was terrified of was hurting me. I rose from my chair and walked over to him. I stood behind him, my heart pounding. Lorenzo, I said, my voice soft, look at me. He turned. The vulnerability in his eyes was a stark contrast to the powerful mafia don everyone else saw. I reached up and touched his face, tracing the hard line of his jaw. I'm not afraid of the curse, I whispered. I'm afraid of losing you. It was the truth. In the short time I'd been trapped in this world, something had shifted inside me. I had started to see past the monster to the man. I had seen his pain, his loneliness, his desperate fight to protect me from a fate he didn't believe I deserved. I had fallen for the tragic villain of the story. He closed his eyes, leaning into my touch. Noah, he groaned, a sound of pure anguish. You don't know what you're saying. You don't understand. Then explain it to me. I urged. Show me. He opened his eyes, and the hunger was back. He cupped the back of my head with his hand and pulled me to him, his mouth crashing down on mine. The kiss was everything I'd feared and hoped for. It was demanding, possessive, and searingly hot. It tasted of whiskey and desperation and a raw, primal need that stole my breath away. His other arm wrapped around my waist, crushing me against his hard body. I was drowning in him, and I didn't want to be saved. He broke the kiss, resting his forehead against mine, his breathing ragged. This is what I've been trying to avoid, he confessed, his voice husky. Because once I start, I won't be able to stop. My wolf will see you as its mate, and it will never let you go. Then don't stop, I whispered against his lips. I don't want you to. He groaned again and kissed me, deeper this time. It was a claiming. His tongue swept into my mouth, tasting, branding. My hands fisted in his hair, and I kissed him back with a fervor that surprised me. I was no longer the terrified hostage. I was a willing participant in this dangerous, forbidden dance. A loud, insistent knock on the door shattered the moment. Lorenzo pulled back instantly, his body going rigid. The passion in his eyes was replaced by cold, alert fury. What is it? He barked, his voice sharp as a blade. The door swung open to reveal one of his lieutenants, his face ashen. Sir, we have a situation. The gallows have penetrated the outer perimeter. They're heading for the main house. Lorenzo moved with blinding speed. He was at the door. In an instant, his hand grabbing my wrist. Follow me. Stay close. Don't make a sound. He pulled me out of the room and into the hall. The mansion, once so serene, was now a cacophony of shouted orders and the sound of running feet. The silence was gone, replaced by the terrifying chaos of a war zone. He didn't take me back to the bunker. He took me to a small, hidden alcove behind a tapestry, a space so tight we were pressed together in the darkness. "Don't move," he commanded, his voice a low growl in my ear. "Don't make a sound, Noah. Whatever you hear, do not come out. Promise me." "I promise," I whispered, my heart hammering in my chest. He kissed me once more, a hard, possessive press of his lips against mine. "I will come back for you. I will always come back for you." And then he was gone, leaving me alone in the suffocating darkness, listening to the sounds of the war that was about to engulf the house. Chapter 5, The Bloody Price. The darkness was suffocating. Every sound was amplified, the thunder of boots on marble, the sharp bark of commands, and then the unmistakable deafening sound of gunfire. It was a symphony of violence, and I was trapped in the orchestra pit, a terrified spectator. I pressed my hand over my mouth to stifle the scream that clawed at my throat. The sounds were getting closer. Shouts, grunts, the sickening thud of bodies hitting the floor. I could smell smoke, cordite, and something else, the metallic, coppery scent of blood. Then a man's voice, thick with a foreign accent, cut through the chaos. "Find the Romanos. Find the boy. The Don wants his head." A cold wave of fear washed over me. They were looking for me. Lorenzo had said this was about the Empire, about the gallows wanting control. But there was a personal vendetta here. The Don wanted my head. I was a target, a symbol of Lorenzo's perceived weakness, a trophy to be claimed in a war for power. I was just collateral damage. Minutes felt like hours. The sounds of fighting grew more distant, moving deeper into the house. Then a new sound, the crackle of a walkie-talkie, followed by Lorenzo's voice, cold and steely. "All remaining units, converge on the east wing. We have them cornered. No one leaves alive." The assurance in his voice sent a shiver of relief through me. He was okay. He was winning. I was safe. But a new, more immediate danger was making itself known. The tapestry was brushing against my face, and I could feel the heat of the fire on the other side. One of the gallows men must have set off an incendiary device. The air was growing thick with smoke. I couldn't stay here. I'd be roasted alive. I pushed the tapestry aside and stumbled out of the alcove. The hallway was empty, but a thick black smoke was rolling in from the direction of the main hall. I coughed, my eyes stinging. I needed to get out. I remembered the hidden staircase in the library, the one that led to the bunker. It was my only chance. I stumbled through the smoke-filled corridors, my heart in my throat. The air was acrid and hot. I could feel the heat of the flames licking at the walls. I made it to the library, the door ajar, the room filled with a hazy glow. The fire was already here. I ran to the bookshelf, my hands frantically searching for the hidden latch. I'd seen Lorenzo do it once. It was a small, bronze emblem of a wolf's head. I pressed it. Nothing happened. I pressed again harder. The bookshelf groaned, but didn't move. "Come on," I hissed, panic rising in my throat. "Please, please, please." Then I saw it. A red flicker on the floor. A tiny, smoldering ember that had landed on a priceless first edition book. A puff of smoke billowed up, and then the book burst into flames. The fire was here. I had to get out. I turned and ran for the French doors that led to the garden. I burst through them, gasping for clean air, my lungs burning. The night air was cold against my heated skin. I collapsed to my knees on the manicured lawn, coughing and retching. I heard a shout from the side of the house. A man in a dark suit was running towards me, a gun in his hand. I was too exhausted to run. I just sat there, staring at my executioner. A blur of movement flashed before my eyes. There was a sickening crunch, and the man crumpled to the ground, a single, clean hole in his forehead. I looked up. Lorenzo stood over me, a smoking gun in his hand, his silver eyes blazing with a terrifying fury. He was covered in soot, a dark stain on his shoulder, but he was alive. He didn't say a word. He just knelt down, scooped me up in his arms, and carried me away from the burning house. He didn't put me down until we were far away, in a different part of the estate, next to one of his private cars. He set me down gently, cradling my face in his hands. "Are you hurt?" he demanded, his eyes scanning my face, my body, for any sign of injury. "No," I whispered, my voice hoarse. "You're bleeding." He looked at his shoulder and shrugged. "It's nothing. A scratch." He opened the car door for me. "Get in. We're leaving." "Where are we going?" I asked. "Somewhere safe," he said, the same words he'd used the first night. This time, they didn't sound like a threat. They sounded like a promise. "Wait," I said, looking back at the house. A plume of orange and black was rising from the main structure. It was an inferno. "The house is gone," he said, his voice flat. "Don't worry. They'll pay. They'll all pay. But right now, my only priority is getting you out of here." He helped me into the passenger seat, and a moment later he was in the driver's seat, the engine roaring to life. He drove like a man possessed, the car a blur through the night. We arrived at a penthouse in the city. It was ultramodern, stark, and minimalist, the complete opposite of the opulent mansion. It was a fortress of glass and steel, a place that felt as cold and untouchable as Lorenzo appeared to the outside world. He guided me to a bedroom and sat me on the bed. He brought me a glass of water. I drank it greedily, the cool liquid a balm for my raw throat. He knelt in front of me, his eyes full of a torment I'd never seen before. "I almost lost you tonight," he said, his voice a ragged whisper. "The one thing that matters to me, and I almost let them take you." "You didn't," I said, reaching out to touch his face. "You saved me." "It shouldn't have happened in the first place," he growled. "This war, the gallows, it's all because of me, because I was too weak to keep you out of it, and too weak to let you go." He leaned his forehead against my knees, his body shuddering. "I can't do this anymore, Noah. I can't keep pretending that you're just a hostage. I can't keep you at a distance. If I lose you, I lose everything. The curse, the empire, it all means nothing without you." He lifted his head, his silver eyes meeting mine. I saw a question in them, a desperate, fragile hope. "What are you saying?" I whispered. He took a deep breath, as if steeling himself. "I'm saying that I know what the witch told me. I know the price of claiming you. I know the danger it will put you in. I know about the entire sordid history of my bloodline, and I know that if I do this, you will be irrevocably bound to it." He took my hands in his. "But I am done fighting it. I have spent my entire life fighting the curse, fighting the war, fighting the world. I don't want to fight you anymore. I want to tell you the truth, every dark, ugly part of it. I want you to know who I really am, and why I'm so afraid of losing you. And then I want to ask you a question that will change everything." I held my breath. "Ask me." He looked into my eyes, and for the first time, I saw the hope in his that eclipsed the fear. "The witch said the sacrifice has to be willing, Noah. The bond has to be accepted by the other. It cannot be forced. So I am asking you here and now, no games, no lies." He paused, his voice dropping to a whisper so quiet I almost didn't hear it. "Will you be my sacrifice, Noah? Will you let me claim you as my mate and break this curse that has haunted my family for a century? Will you stay with me through the war and the peace, through the madness and the calm, and let me try to be the man you deserve?" His question hung in the air between us, a monumental, terrifying, beautiful thing. The flames of the burning house were a memory, but the fire he was kindling in my heart was just beginning to burn. I was standing on the precipice, looking into the abyss of his world. And for the first time, I wasn't afraid of the fall. I was only afraid of never knowing what it felt like to land in his arms. Chapter 6, The Mark of the Wolf. The question hung in the air, a shard of light in the darkness of the penthouse. My heart was a frantic drum against my ribs, my palms slick with sweat. He was giving me a choice, a real, tangible choice. This wasn't a demand, a command, or a cold decree from a mafia king. This was a man, laid bare, offering me a future so terrifyingly intertwined with his that I knew I could never walk away. But could I truly say yes? Could I willingly bind myself to a curse, to a war, to a man who was as dangerous as the world he ruled? The answer, when it came, was so simple, so clear, it almost surprised me. I looked at him, at the silver eyes that were searching mine with such desperate hope, and I saw past the monster to the man I'd come to know. The man who saved me from the fire. The man who had protected me from his own obsession. The man who was willing to sacrifice his own chance at breaking the curse if it meant keeping me safe. Yes, I whispered, the words seeming to echo in the vast, silent room. Yes, Lorenzo, I will be your sacrifice. I will let you claim me. A shuddering breath escaped his lips, a sound of pure, unadulterated relief. He didn't smile. His expression was too raw, too intense for smile. He surged forward, crushing his mouth to mine. This kiss was different from the others. It was a promise, a sealing of a pact. It was tender and fierce, full of gratitude and a blazing, possessive fire. He pulled back just enough to look at me, his forehead resting against mine. You have no idea what you've just done for me, he breathed. You have no idea what you mean to me, Noah. Then show me, I whispered, my voice trembling with a mixture of fear and anticipation. Show me what it means to be yours. The hunger in his eyes flared. He didn't need to be told twice. He captured my mouth again, his tongue sliding against mine, a deep, languid exploration. His hands, rough and calloused, began to roam my body, mapping out every curve, every plane. He unbuttoned my shirt with a surprising gentleness, his fingers grazing my skin, leaving a trail of goose bumps in their wake. When my shirt fell away, he pulled back, his gaze devouring me. You are so beautiful, he said, his voice a low, reverent growl. My perfect, beautiful sacrifice. He kissed a trail down my neck, and when his teeth grazed the sensitive skin of my throat, I gasped. I felt his sharp, predatory canines, and a shiver of both fear and pleasure shot through me. This was it. This was the claiming. He pulled me closer, his mouth returning to mine. He was stripping away his own clothes, a frantic, desperate effort to be closer to me. His hands were on my back, pressing me against his bare chest. I could feel the heat of him, the hard planes of muscle, the steady, powerful thrum of his heart. He laid me back on the bed, his body covering mine. He looked down at me, and I saw the wolf in his eyes, a flicker of golden fire in the silver. I will be gentle, he promised, his voice husky. I will try to be gentle, but the wolf is stronger than me tonight. I don't want you to be gentle, I whispered, surprising myself with the confession. I want you to show me the truth. All of it. A low growl rumbled from his chest. He didn't waste another moment. He claimed my mouth again, his kiss more demanding now, more primal. His hands explored my body with an almost reverent touch, as if he were memorizing me. When he finally entered me, it was a shock of pain and pleasure. He went slowly, his forehead pressed to mine, his breathing ragged. Just breathe, Noah, he murmured, his voice strained with the effort of holding back. Just breathe. I did. I let him in, letting the pain fade into a deep, overwhelming fullness. And then he began to move. It was an act of possession. I clung to him, my fingers digging into his back, my legs wrapped around his waist. He moved with a rhythm that was both fierce and tender, driving me to a peak I didn't know I could reach. The world fell away. There was no curse, no war, no mansion burning. There was only this, only us. I shattered in his arms, crying out his name. A moment later, he followed, a deep, guttural groan tearing from his throat as he buried his face in the curve of my neck. The end was just the beginning. As the tremors of our climax faded, I felt a sharp, searing pain at my throat. His teeth had sunk into my skin, claiming me, marking me. The pain was fleeting, replaced by a wave of heat that pulsed from the bite mark, traveling through my entire body. It was a warmth that felt like pure, golden light, filling every vein. I gasped, my eyes wide. It wasn't just a mark on my skin, it was a bond. I could feel him inside my head, feel his emotions, his thoughts, his very essence. It was overwhelming, an invasion of privacy, so complete it was terrifying, but it was also an anchor, a tether to his soul. He pulled back, his lips red with my blood, his silver eyes glowing with a golden fire. He looked triumphant, ecstatic, and utterly undone. "You are mine," he declared, his voice a feral growl. "Mine. And I am yours. The bond is formed. It cannot be broken." He collapsed beside me, pulling me into his arms. He held me so tightly, as if he was afraid I would disappear. I could feel his heart hammering against my ear. I could feel his relief, his joy, his overwhelming sense of peace. The chaos inside him, the constant gnawing madness of the curse, had quieted. He had found his sanctuary. He had found it in me. I fell asleep in his arms, feeling safer than I had in weeks. The burning house, the war, the curse, it was all still out there. But for the first time, I wasn't facing it alone. I woke in the middle of the night to find him watching me. The moonlight from the floor-to-ceiling windows cast a silver glow over his face. "You're staring," I murmured, my voice heavy with sleep. "I'm memorizing you," he replied, his fingers tracing the mark on my throat. "I wanted to make sure you were real, that this wasn't a dream." "It's real," I assured him, leaning into his touch. "I'm here." His expression grew serious. "The bond is complete, Noah. Our lives are now intertwined. What happens to me happens to you. The witch was right. You are the cure for my curse. I don't feel the madness anymore. The wolf is quiet. For the first time in my entire life, I feel peace. That's good, isn't it?" I asked, "You said the curse was a madness. If you're better now—" "It's more than better," he said. "I feel human. I feel hope. But there is something I need to tell you. Something I haven't been completely honest about. A knot of anxiety formed in my stomach." "What is it?" He took a deep breath. "The witch told me something else. She said that once the bond is formed, the curse won't just end. It will be transferred. The madness, the consuming obsession, the death sentence, it doesn't just vanish. It finds a new vessel." I stared at him, a cold dread seeping into my bones. "What are you saying? What vessel?" He met my eyes, his gaze unwavering. "The mark on your neck is the conduit, Noah. The curse, it's coming for you." Chapter 7, The Weight of a Curse. The words hung in the air, a chilling echo in the sterile quiet of the penthouse. The warmth of the bond I'd felt, the security of his arms around me, vanished in an instant, replaced by a creeping, icy dread. "The curse is coming for me?" I repeated, my voice a thin, fragile thread. He nodded, his expression grim. "The witch confirmed it. Breaking the curse doesn't destroy it. It just passes it on. The madness, the feral obsession, the shortened lifespan, it will now be your burden to bear." I sat up, pulling the sheets around me, my mind reeling. I had just willingly bound myself to a man, to a destiny I didn't fully understand, and now I was learning that in doing so, I had signed my own death warrant. It was a betrayal, a bait and switch so cruel I couldn't even process it. "You knew," I whispered, the words tasting like ash. "You knew this whole time. The witch told you, and you still asked me. You still made me say yes." "Noah, listen to me," he pleaded, reaching for me. I flinched away from him. "Don't touch me." I cried, scrambling off the bed. I stood there, naked and shaking, the mark on my neck throbbing with a phantom pain. "You knew what would happen to me, and you still asked me to be your sacrifice. You claimed me, knowing you were passing a death sentence onto me." He rose from the bed, his face a mask of anguish. "It's not a death sentence," he insisted, his voice strained. "The witch gave me hope. She said that because you are from the 5th generation, you are uniquely resistant to the curse's effects. The worst of it, the madness, it won't touch you the way it touched me. You will feel the pull, the obsession, but you won't lose yourself to it. You are the key to ending the cycle, not to continuing it. You're a cure, not a new host." "A cure?" I scoffed, my voice thick with bitter tears. "How can I be a cure if I'm the one who's going to be sick? If the madness passes on to me, then I'll just become like you. I'll become the monster you were afraid of being. How is that a cure?" He took a cautious step towards me. "Because you won't be alone. I will be with you. The bond works both ways, Noah. I can share your burden, just as you've shared mine. My wolf is quiet now, because it found its mate. It found you. And the part of the curse that is driven by loneliness, by the animal's need for its other half, it's been satisfied. What's left is a fraction of what it was. His words were logical, but my heart was a storm of fear and anger. I had been a willing participant in my own damnation, tricked by my own growing feelings for a man I'd come to trust. The irony was suffocating. "I made you a promise, Noah," he said softly, his voice breaking through my spiral. "I promised to protect you, and I will. I will give my life to protect you from the curse that now threatens you. I will find a way to stop it, to break it for good. This is not how our story ends. I won't let it end this way." His earnest plea, the desperate sincerity in his silver eyes, began to chip away at the ice wall of my anger. I saw the guilt, the self-loathing, the terror he felt at the thought of losing me. He hadn't meant to trick me. He had been desperate. He reached out again, his hand hovering near my cheek. I didn't flinch this time. He cupped my face gently, his thumb brushing away a tear I hadn't even realized I'd shed. "I was a coward," he admitted, his voice thick with emotion. "I should have told you the truth before I claimed you. I was so afraid you would say no. I was terrified of losing you. And that selfishness, that fear, has put you in danger. I will never forgive myself for it. But I will spend the rest of my life making it up to you. I promise you that." His promise felt heavy, a weight that settled on my shoulders. Could I forgive him? Could I trust him? I looked into his eyes and saw the answer. He was a man who had made a terrible mistake, driven by a love he didn't know how to express. He wasn't a villain. He was a man trying to find a way out of the dark. "We're in this together, Noah," he said. "We face the curse together. We face the gallows together. We face everything together. That is what the bond means. I am yours and you are mine." I let out a long, shaky breath. The anger was still there, a simmering ember, but the fear was beginning to recede. I had chosen this path. I had chosen him. And now I had to live with the consequences. "Okay," I said, my voice quiet. "Okay." He let out a breath of relief and pulled me into his arms. I clung to him, burying my face in his chest. His heart was a steady, reassuring beat against my ear. The bond between us hummed with a quiet, powerful energy, a reminder of the connection we now shared. He carried me back to the bed, and we lay together in the darkness, our bodies entwined. He spoke of his past, of his childhood, of the mother who died young and the father who was consumed by the curse. He told me of his rise to power, the blood and violence that had paved his way. He shared his nightmares, the terrors that haunted his sleep. It was a brutal, painful confession, and I listened. In turn, I told him of my life with my father, the loneliness of being the good son, the constant unspoken fear that one day the world he inhabited would come crashing down on me. It was a catharsis, a baring of our souls. As the first light of dawn crept into the room, I felt a strange sense of peace. I was still terrified of the curse, still angry at the deception, but I was no longer alone. I drifted off to sleep, his arms wrapped around me. I was woken by a sound, a soft, almost imperceptible noise. I opened my eyes and the world was blurry. Then I saw the figure standing by the window. It was Lorenzo. He was staring out at the city, his back to me. "Lorenzo?" I murmured. He didn't turn around. He didn't respond. A cold dread seeped into my veins. Something was wrong. "Lorenzo?" I said again, louder this time. He turned. His silver eyes, which had been so warm the night before, were now cold and empty. They were the eyes of a predator, the eyes of a wolf. He was in a state of pure, feral instinct. He stalked towards the bed, his movements fluid and predatory. He climbed onto the mattress, his body covering mine. He didn't kiss me. He just stared at me, his gaze unnerving. "Lorenzo, what's wrong? Are you okay?" He didn't answer. He just lowered his head to my neck, breathing in deeply. I felt the sharp graze of his teeth against the mark he'd made. He wasn't trying to claim me again. He was trying to hurt me. I pushed against his chest, panic rising. "Lorenzo, stop it. You're scaring me." He didn't stop. He was stronger than me, a force of nature. He held me down easily, his teeth scraping against my skin. I was trapped. I reached out with my mind, through the bond, trying to connect with him. I called his name. I poured all my fear, all my love, all my desperate need for him into the connection. He froze. A shudder ran through his body. He pulled back, his eyes wide with horror. He looked down at me, and the feral, empty gaze was gone. In its place was a look of pure, unadulterated terror. "Noah," he breathed, his voice ragged. "My God, what did I do? What did I almost do?" He scrambled off me, stumbling away from the bed. He looked at his own hands as if they were covered in blood. "The curse," he said, his voice trembling. "It's still here. It hasn't fully passed to you yet. It's fighting. It's trying to take control. The bond is strong, but the curse is older. It will not give up its hold on me easily." He looked at me, and I saw the tears in his eyes. "I could have killed you," he whispered. "I could have killed you because of the curse. I almost did." He fell to his knees, a broken man, the weight of the curse crushing him. The war outside was nothing compared to the war raging within his soul, and I was the prize, the fragile victory at the center of it all. Chapter 8, The Huntress. The image of Lorenzo on his knees, broken by the revelation of his own potential for violence, was seared into my memory. The warmth of our night together felt like a distant, fragile dream, shattered by the cold reality of the curse. He wouldn't let me near him for hours. He stayed on the floor, his back against the bed, his head in his hands. He refused to look at me. "You need to leave," he finally said, his voice a hollow echo. "I'm not safe. I can't protect you if I can't even control myself." "You did control yourself," I said, my voice firm. "You stopped. You fought it. That means there's hope." He shook his head. "It was only a matter of time. If you hadn't reached out through the bond, I would have. But you didn't," I interrupted. "You didn't hurt me. I'm fine." He finally looked at me, his eyes red-rimmed and tortured. "For now. But what about tomorrow? Or the next day? The curse is a cycle, Noah. It attacks in waves. This was the first. I won't be strong enough to fight it next time. It will only get stronger. Then we'll find a way to fight it together," I insisted, kneeling in front of him. "We'll find the witch again. We'll find a way to destroy the curse completely. You said I was the key. Then let me unlock it." He didn't argue. He just looked at me, a flicker of fragile hope in his eyes. "You're not afraid of me?" "I'm terrified of you," I admitted, my voice dropping to a whisper. "But I'm more terrified of losing you." He pulled me into his arms, holding me so tightly I could barely breathe. He didn't speak. He didn't have to. The bond hummed with his gratitude, his love, and his profound relief. We spent the day in the penthouse, locked away from the world. He made calls, his voice clipped and businesslike, updating his lieutenants, coordinating the counterattacks against the gallows. The war was intensifying. The city was in chaos. But he was different. There was a new edge to his focus. He was no longer fighting for his empire. He was fighting for his future. He was fighting for a world where he could finally be free. I watched him from the sofa, my heart aching with a strange, profound love. I had been a hostage, a pawn, a sacrifice, but now I was something else entirely. I was his mate, his anchor, his reason to fight. That evening, he took me to a small, private room on the penthouse's top floor. It wasn't a normal room. It was a chapel, a small, beautiful sanctuary, the walls lined with icons and the scent of incense in the air. "My mother's chapel," he explained, his voice quiet. "She had it built when she was pregnant with me. She was a devout woman. She prayed for a son who would break the curse. She didn't live to see it, but I like to think she would have been happy. She would have loved you, Noah." The gesture was so unexpected, so personal, it brought tears to my eyes. This was Lorenzo's way of showing me the deepest part of his soul, a part he kept hidden from the world. He was giving me his most sacred secret. He didn't say much more. He just held my hand in the candlelit silence, and we stood together in the quiet sanctity of his mother's shrine. It was a vow, a silent promise of a future together, free from the chains of the past. We returned to the main living space. He was more relaxed than I'd ever seen him. He poured us both a glass of wine and sat beside me on the sofa. He rested his arm along the back, his fingers gently stroking my shoulder. "I can't believe you're here," he murmured. "I can't believe I found you." "You didn't find me," I said with a small smile. "You bought me. I was part of a business deal." He laughed, a genuine, warm sound that was a complete contrast to his usual cold demeanor. A business deal that became the most important decision of my life. My father always said I had a good head for business. I never knew it would lead me to you. I leaned into him, basking in the simple, fleeting peace of the moment. My head was resting on his shoulder. The city lights twinkled below us, a dark, sprawling canvas of chaos and violence. But here, in this high glass tower, we were an oasis. A sharp, loud buzz broke the silence. The security system. Lorenzo was on his feet. In an instant, a gun appearing in his hand as if by magic. "Stay here," he commanded, his voice low and deadly. He moved to a wall panel and activated a monitor. The screen flickered to life, showing a live feed of the penthouse's entrance. My blood ran cold. A woman was standing there. She was a vision of fire and ice, with hair the color of a dying flame and eyes the color of a winter sky. She was dressed in black, her clothes practical and functional. She looked familiar. It was the woman from the painting, the first Romanova. "The huntress," Lorenzo breathed, his voice a mixture of awe and terror. "The one who started it all." I stared at the screen, my heart pounding. The ghost from the painting was here. She had come to claim her vengeance. The woman looked directly into the hidden camera, her gaze piercing. A cold smile spread across her lips. Her voice, when she spoke, was a whisper that seemed to echo in the room, even though it was coming from the speakers. "I've come for the Alphas, mate. The sacrifice that has been chosen. I've come to witness the end of the curse, one way or another." She began to walk towards the elevator. She knew the penthouse's layout. She knew exactly where we were. Lorenzo turned to me, his face pale. He grabbed my arm and pulled me towards the back of the penthouse. "We have to move. Now." A narrow, dark passageway. He pushed me inside, his body a shield between me and the entrance. "Stay behind me, Noah. Whatever happens, do not come out. The huntress isn't just a ghost. She is a force of nature. The curse is her weapon. She is the one who decides who lives and who dies." We moved through the dark passage, our footsteps echoing on the metal floor. It was a service corridor, a hidden way out that led to the fire escape. The sound of the elevator arriving at our floor was a death knell. We had seconds. Lorenzo pushed open the fire escape door, the cold night air rushing in. He propelled me onto the metal platform, his body behind mine. "Down," he commanded. "Go down. Don't stop. Don't look back. I'll find you." "No." I cried. "I'm not leaving you." He grabbed me, his hands on my face. "You have to. You're the only one who can stop this. Go. I'll hold her off." He kissed me, a hard, desperate kiss. Then he pushed me toward the stairs. I started running, my heart in my throat. I could hear the sounds of a struggle behind me, shouts, crashes. The curse was making its final play. The huntress had come for the final sacrifice. I didn't know where I was going. I just ran, the stairs spiraling down into the dark. Chapter 9, The Ghost's Bargain. The fire escape was a dizzying maze of metal and shadow. The wind howled around me, whipping my hair into my face, stealing my breath. I ran blindly, my only thought to get away, to find safety, to somehow get back to Lorenzo. The sounds of the fight above were fading, replaced by the rhythmic thud of my own footsteps on the iron grating. I reached a lower landing and paused, my lungs burning. I looked up, seeing nothing but the dark silhouette of the building against the city lights. Then I heard it, a sound softer than the wind, a whisper. "Did you really think you could run for me, little sacrifice?" I spun around. She was there, standing on the landing just above me, perfectly still. She was unreal, a vision of ethereal beauty and ancient malice. Her red hair was like a living flame, her blue eyes cold as a winter moon. In the dim light, she seemed to glow. "It's you," I gasped, my voice trembling. "The ghost, the curse." I am the beginning and the end, she said, her voice a silken, chilling melody. Elena Romanova. I was wronged, and in my rage, I forged a weapon so powerful it has blighted this bloodline for generations, a curse that feeds on the Alpha's own wolf, turning his greatest strength into his ultimate weakness. She descended the steps, moving with a fluid grace that was not quite human. I backed away, my heart pounding. Why are you here? Why now? Because the cycle is at its end, she said, stopping a few feet away from me. Lorenzo is the last. He was supposed to die alone, consumed by his own madness. But you interfered. You changed the equation. Your pure soul, your forbidden bond, you have offered a way to break the curse. And I have come to see if you are worthy. Worthy? I echoed, my mind reeling. I didn't ask for this. I was brought here against my will. I was a prisoner, a pawn. And yet you chose him, she countered, her eyes boring into me. You chose to be his mate. You chose to share his burden. You chose to be his sacrifice. That choice is what gives you power, Noah. That choice is what makes you worthy. She stepped closer, close enough that I could feel the cold emanating from her, a chill that had nothing to do with the night air. The curse will not be broken by force. It can only be broken by a willing heart, a pure love. The love you have shown Lorenzo has begun the process. But the curse, my curse, is old and stubborn. It will not be defeated so easily. What do you want from me? I asked, my voice barely a whisper. I want to test you, she replied. I want to see if your love is real, or if it is merely the delusion of a captive. I will not harm you, Noah. I will not touch you. But I will show you the truth. I will show you the true nature of the Alpha's love, the nature of his beast. She raised her hand, and a swirl of images filled the air. I saw Lorenzo as a child, a lonely boy, in a vast empty house. I saw his father, a cruel, tormented man, consumed by the same curse that now threatened his son. I saw Lorenzo's first kill, the first time his wolf had taken control, the look of horror on his young face. I saw the years of violence, the bloodshed, the bodies he'd left in his wake. It was a brutal, unflinching portrait of a monster, a man I didn't recognize, a man I was terrified of. And then the images shifted. I saw myself through Lorenzo's eyes. I saw the moment I'd walked into his office, the way my son had hit him like a physical blow. I saw the frantic, desperate need that had filled him, a need he didn't understand and couldn't control. I saw his shame, his fear, his overwhelming desire to protect me from himself. I saw the first time he'd kissed me, the way his heart had pounded. I saw the night he'd carried me out of the burning mansion, the terror of almost losing me. I saw him on his knees in the penthouse, broken and begging for a chance to be worthy of me. I saw his love, not the love of a monster, but the love of a man who had been starved of it his entire life, who was desperate to hold onto the one good thing he'd ever found. I was crying. I didn't know when I'd started, but tears were streaming down my face. The vision faded, and I was back on the fire escape facing the ghost. You see, Elena said, her voice softer now, he is both. He is the monster and the man. He is the curse and the cure. The question is, can you love him, truly love him, knowing the darkness within him? I looked at her, my heart aching with a love so profound, so terrifying it consumed me. I knew what he was. I had seen the monster, but I had also seen the man, and I love them both. Yes, I said, my voice clear and strong. I love him, all of him, the darkness and the light, the wolf and the man. I accept him, and I accept the curse. A slow smile spread across Elena's face. It was a beautiful, ethereal smile, a smile of triumph. Then it is done, she whispered. The bond is now complete. The curse is no more. It will not transfer to you, Noah. It will simply cease to be. She lifted her hand, and a wave of warmth washed over me. The cold, the fear, the oppressive weight of the curse, it all vanished. I felt the bond with Lorenzo, strong and clear and pure. I felt his fear, his desperation. But I also felt the instant the curse was broken. A wave of relief, of joy, of overwhelming peace washed through him, traveling through the bond and into my soul. He was free. He was finally free. Elena began to fade, her form becoming translucent. You have done what no other could, Noah. You have broken the cycle. The Romano line is cleansed. Be happy. You have earned it. And then she was gone, nothing but a whisper in the wind. Chapter 10, A New Dawn. The morning after the curse was broken, the world felt different. The very air seemed lighter, cleaner. The city, which had been a war zone just hours before, was still scarred and bruised, but a sense of fragile hope was beginning to bloom. The Gallows, their leader dead in the counterattack Lorenzo had orchestrated the night before, were in disarray. The war, at least this phase of it, was over. We were back in the penthouse. Lorenzo had insisted on it. He didn't want to leave me alone, even for a moment. He was by my side, constantly, his hand always finding mine, his gaze always seeking me out. We sat on the sofa, the morning sun streaming in through the floor-to-ceiling windows. He held me close, his arms wrapped around me. The silence was comfortable, a gentle hum of contentment. I can't believe it's over, he murmured, his lips brushing my hair. All my life, I lived with that shadow hanging over me. I thought it was just the price of being a Romano. I thought I was destined to die young and alone, consumed by the madness. And now, I have a future. We have a future, I corrected him, turning to look at him. Together. He smiled, a real, genuine smile that lit up his entire face. It was a smile I'd never seen before, a smile of pure, unadulterated joy. Together, he echoed. He leaned in and kissed me, a slow, languid kiss that tasted of mint and promise. It was a kiss of celebration, a kiss of a new beginning. So, what happens now? I asked, pulling back. What about the gallows? What about the war? He sighed, the weight of the world settling back on his shoulders. The gallows will take time to reorganize. Their leader is dead, and his successors are more interested in fighting each other than fighting us. We have a window of opportunity, a chance to consolidate our power and end this war permanently. But it will mean more work, more strategy, more violence. He looked at me, his silver eyes searching mine. Is that something you can live with, Noah? This is my world. Violence and power are the currency I trade in. I can't promise you a peaceful life. I can only promise you that I will always try to protect you from the worst of it. I knew what he was asking. He was asking me if I could accept him, all of him, including the dark parts that had been forged in the crucible of the Mafia underworld. It was a question I had already answered. I am not afraid of your world, Lorenzo, I said, cupping his face in my hands. I was never afraid of it. I was afraid of you, but I'm not afraid anymore. I know you. I know the man behind the monster, and I will stand beside you no matter what. He closed his eyes, a look of pure gratitude washing over his face. He pulled me into his arms, holding me close. I don't deserve you, he whispered, but I'll spend the rest of my life trying to earn you. Later that day, he took me to the penthouse's rooftop. It was a vast, open space with a sweeping view of the city. The sun was setting, painting the sky in shades of orange and purple. It was beautiful, peaceful. He turned to me, his expression serious. I want to give you something, he said, a symbol of our new beginning. He reached into his pocket and pulled out a small velvet box. My heart skipped a beat. He opened it. Inside was a ring. It was a simple, elegant band of platinum with a single flawless diamond. It was beautiful. I know this is fast, he began, his voice a little unsteady, but I've been thinking about this for a while. Since the night I claimed you. I want to marry you, Noah. I want to make you mine in every way possible. I want to spend my life with you, fighting for you, loving you, protecting you. Will you do me the honor of becoming my husband? I stared at the ring, my eyes filling with tears. It was the most beautiful, the most unexpected, the most perfect proposal in the world. Yes, I whispered, my voice choked with emotion. Yes, of course I will. He let out a breath of pure relief and slipped the ring onto my finger. It fit perfectly. He lifted my hand to his lips and kissed it, his silver eyes shining with a love so deep it took my breath away. He pulled me into his arms, kissing me deeply. The kiss was full of promises, full of a future we would build together. It was a kiss that sealed our fate, a fate no longer dictated by curses or wars, but by the love we had found in each other. We stood on the rooftop, the city lights twinkling around us, a new dawn on the horizon. The war was not over, but the battle for our souls was won. We had faced the monsters, both internal and external. We had broken the curse. We had found each other. And that was just the beginning. The end was just the beginning.